We're now just hours from kick-off as Celtic got to the final Glasgow Derby, certainly for the league campaign, with a real opportunity to get their hands back on the trophy for a third successive season. This is Tino with the Countdown to Kick-Off show, joined here by James and Paddy. James, your initial thoughts ahead of this one?
Been a long week. That's all I can say. I've been just looking forward to it all week, or maybe even longer. We know that this is the game. Win this game and the league's done. Again, a league that they thought we weren't anywhere near. We were written off in February. So to get over the line, if we can get over the line Saturday, it's job done for me.
Yeah, Paddy, plenty for us to cover here over the next 45 minutes or so. But what's your general feelings ahead of the game?
I'm relaxed about it. Obviously, the nerves will no doubt kick in the Saturday morning, but I'm just kind of playing through the scenarios, and some of the boys, maybe just in the last hour before we came on, were discussing how they think it will go. And I, honestly, I'm confident enough that we go and beat them. But what I don't want is one of those performances where we feel under pressure for the full game. I said on Monday night, I think that we've got enough about them to go and put on a really good performance on Saturday, and generally feel that after that game against Hearts, the confidence all those players would have taken from that will be massive. They will want to put on a bit of a show. I do think the weight came off a lot of their shoulders on Saturday, especially our striker, especially our main man. So, excited, but I'm sure the nerves will be there on the Saturday morning.
I've no doubt. Paddy, I'll stick with you for now. What do you think of the week of build-up we've had so far? We'll obviously hear from Brendan Rodgers and Philippe Clement tomorrow, some point around about lunchtime-ish for the press conference stuff. But till now, it's been fairly quiet from the Celtic camp. There was a video, it was just Brendan Rodgers, 6 minutes or so on Wednesday. We're going to do a wee bit of a focus on the managers a bit later in the piece, but just overall, how have you felt the build-up's been? Fairly quiet by Glasgow Derby standards, or anything you've picked up on?
Yeah, it kind of looks like both teams are keeping their cards close to their chest before this one. I think it's been pretty tame in comparison. I'd say that there was a lot more debate, a lot more excitement around the last one at Ibrox. However, I just feel that we've had the referee decisions on Tuesday. That seems to be kind of taking up the conversations. I was listening a little bit of the phone in there and Super Scoreboard, and some wild takes on that already about Willie Collum. But I think tomorrow it will really start ramping up. It's a day away from it, and I'll be interested to hear both press conferences tomorrow as well. I wonder who will go first. I even think that's a psychological edge tomorrow in terms of who's going to get the first and who's going to get the final word in. So, no, just really, really excited about it. But as we've said, and we said on Monday, I think Celtic are feeling, pretty excited about this one. But as I say, just keeping their feet grounded, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah. James, your own take in the build-up, and let's reference Willie Collum. We found out on Tuesday morning he was going to be the man in the middle. Don't know if there's anybody happy with that, generally speaking, but Willie Collum, the man in the middle, Stephen McLean on the VAR. Your take on that and the build-up in general?
McLean on the VAR's a danger man. Far more worried about him than Willie Collum. Willie Collum's brother didn't used to play for Rangers after all. If you look back a couple of years ago, early April, 2nd of April 22, Ange's first league title, we were on the way to it. Collum refereed that game where Rogic and CCV got the goals to get us 6 points in front. Very similar to this game. We were 3 in front, could have drawn level if they'd won. We won, went 6 clear, went on and finished it and won the league. I remember specifically that game, Collum had an excellent game. He was very calm. He let the game go. He wasn't card happy. And he's not had another league Celtic Rangers game since. He refereed a cup game in 23, the one where Jota scored from Dysen's good work. But that was his last league game, which it surprises me because he was excellent in it. And it stands out when a ref's excellent in a Celtic Rangers game. You've got to let new blood through. I get that. And Collum's at the kind of latter end of his career. But generally, he's the least of my worries. It could have been an awful lot worse. Now, we know he can be quite erratic. He can sometimes be a wee bit kind of attention-seeking. But I think technically he's a good enough referee. But the VAR is where the danger is at. The kind of stuff that McLean might, Steve McLean might draw attention to and stuff that he might not as well. We've seen how VAR got involved in the last game. So no, I think the build-up has been good. The referee stuff, it's good to know what we're dealing with, and I think we're dealing with something better than we could have been. Beating's nowhere near it, and that's another big thing. So Brendan just looks extremely calm and collected. You've heard guys like Scales talking about how when there's something going on, in between games, Rodgers is out there calming the players down, taking the heat on his shoulders, and just making sure they can go about their business. It's going to have been a very structured, very busy week at Lennoxtown, but they'll be working through their paces in a very organised fashion and going into this game full of confidence. And that's exactly what we are.
I believe so, and I agree on the referees. I don't have any great issue with Willie Collum. It could have been a lot worse in terms of the man in the middle. So let's hope, as always, that we're not talking refs at the end of the 90 minutes. Before we get to the lineup, as always, we'd encourage anyone that's joined us in the chat, and thanks, of course, for joining us. But if you've got any thoughts of your own in terms of the starting 11, who should start, who shouldn't, or any other questions in between, let us know. Myself, James, and Paddy will do our very best to get to them between now and the end of the recording. I think overall, lads, James, you and I were chatting earlier on. The team, I think, kind of picks itself. I don't think there's going to be anything controversial here, so we'll maybe punch through this fairly quickly. But by all means, you two lads, let me know if there's anything that jumps out. I'm going to start, James, as always, by predicting that it's going to be Joe Hart and what's now become a fairly settled back four of Alistair Johnson, Carter Vickers, Liam Scales, and Greg Taylor. Is that what you think we'll see?
Yeah.
For you, Paddy?
Yeah, absolutely.
No Lagerbielke getting drafted in at the last minute? Kobayashi, none of that?
Nah, hopefully not.
Yeah. The big debate, and I think it was a genuine debate last week, Paddy, you and I spoke pre-match about Callum McGregor, where he was at, or more specifically, where he wasn't at. He hadn't quite got himself back up to pace. And I think it's also fair to say he wasn't back fully at his brilliant best against Hearts either. But over the piece, he had a pretty solid game. And of course, he had that big moment 55 minutes in, making the tackle that just let you know that he was back, fit, firing, and good to go. He absolutely now must start. There's no debating that. So he'll be there, surely, Paddy, to take the reins in the middle of the park.
Yeah, absolutely. I think super important that he's involved, our captain, and just the main man and what we try and do, especially in these kind of games. If he's there and he's going to give everything, then I'd say he could easily give us a full performance for 70 minutes, maybe taking off then depending on the result. He will set the tempo. He always seems to be the guy that does that in these games. So yeah, he has to start, and I think he'll be huge for us. A few mumblings from some absolute clowns on different radio channels this week, stating that he should be taken care of in the first 5 minutes. Absolute crazy chat. But as I said on Monday, get near him first, lads. Get near him.
James, Paddy's referencing Stuart McCall, I think, and Barry Ferguson, who have both done a good job for Rangers back in the day when you were allowed to go and do that. Leave one on them, set the tone, set the tempo. Game's changed a lot, lads. You're talking 20 odd years since, and then some actually, since those lads were playing. That can't be the message, and it's very naive if that's the approach that Rangers take on Saturday.
Yeah, really. I know this is controversial, but I typically like Ferguson talking about football. I think he usually speaks quite sensibly. That's completely idiotic. If you want to be down to 9 men by half time, if the rules are applied, then that's what you'll end up with doing that. Although we were talking about this earlier on, and I did reference Madden's game in the Scottish Cup semi-final, where that was exactly their game plan, and Madden just didn't book them as he sailed off into the sunset for his farewell. So I don't think we'll get that from Colum. So I think it's clutching at straws, and to be doing so before we've even kicked a ball, I think is pretty dreadful in terms of where they're coming from. If all Rangers have got is kicking our guys, then I'd say we've won already. It's pretty poor.
Yeah, I think so. In front of Callum McGregor, it's 100% going to be Rio Hatate and Matt O'Riley. I was really surprised, James, and this is a tiny sample size, but we put our show out on Monday night as always. And in the comments, a fella was suggesting that we drop Rio Hatate and bring in Paulo Bernardo. I like Paulo Bernardo. I think he's got something to offer. And the fella was saying that, he's got the legs to get up and down the park, and he even played some Champions League stuff. I would suggest he played because Rio wasn't available. And surely, James, there's no debate. Rio and Matt O'Riley are potentially Celtic's two main men at this moment in time. You can't leave either out, can you?
Absolutely not. There's no chance. We're clamouring for Rio to get back. He's back from injury. Yeah, I wouldn't say he's 100% there yet, but he's about maybe 85, 90. But he's in the games where he's played at 60, 70, 80% on the way up to this game. And each one of those games, he's done something quite magical. And you can't not play your players who've got that wee spark of magic, because that's what gets Kyogo in, that's what gets Ida in, that's what releases a Johnson or a Forrest or whatever to spring attack. So Rio is 100% starting this game, and so is Matt O'Riley. That's a no-brainer.
I think Rio's 60 or 70% is just a lot more than some people's 100%. That's the levels he's at. He's just such a talented player, and he absolutely must start. I don't think there's any debate on that. Let's get to the wings. The miracle man dies in Maeda. Again, I think this is an easy one, isn't it? There's a bit of debate. Do you start him? Do you bring him off the bench? You absolutely start him, because, as I mentioned on Monday, first and foremost, they as a side are terrified by him, but certainly James Tavernier specifically is terrified by him. And Paddy, he's just an absolute must for this fixture.
He is. I think, as I said on Monday as well, we know the game plan. Celtic are not going to sit in. Celtic are going to go for this. They want this game tied up. I think the stadium will be bouncing before the game even kicks off. I think that with that momentum, with that energy for the crowd, it'll be a real rise from the team that kind of, I always think about that game under the floodlights back in February. That was electric that evening. And then I've just looked at this the past few times. In the first 10-15 minutes, we're blowing Rangers away. I think that Daisy Maeda comes into that hugely. Even look at some of the games at Ibrox. He's the one that pins them in. He needs to play. Has he got a full 90 minutes in his legs? Probably not yet. Even though he's defying all odds for being even in contention. But yeah, he needs to start for me. And yeah, I would love to see him on the left hand side, where I'm sure he will be.
And is it James Forrest on the opposite wing, Paddy?
No brainer. I wouldn't be surprised if he went for Kuhn, but at the same time, I think he knows that the informed player is James Forrest, and I think he will get the nod. But sometimes, yeah, we do throw up little surprises here or there, and he maybe thinks that it's James Forrest to come in on the left if Maeda gets tired, but I would want to see James Forrest out on the right.
Yeah, and James, there's a whole lot to be said for just playing the guys who are confident and in form, and James Forrest, amongst others, definitely falls into that bracket.
That's kind of where I'm at. Myself and Paddy, I think, show 2 weeks ago, the weekly show, we had a bit of a fun debate about Daizen's back. Does Jamesy have to drop out, or does he then go on the right? And I wasn't a fan of Jamesy on the right because he's just more effective these days on the left. But I'm going to, in true ill-informed podcaster form, Paddy, totally contradict myself and put Jamesy on the right wing. I just think the confidence he's playing with at the moment, you can't not tap into that. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I think there's enough debate around what Rodgers might want from his wingers. Kuhn's a wee bit more direct and going at the fullback than Jamesy. But I think you've got to look at Jamesy's form and how he played on Saturday. I thought he was excellent. That's kind of building up 3 games in a row, including Saturday. And you've just got to have that in your team. So it's Dyson on the left and Jamesy on the right for me.
I completely agree. And James, you know the rules here by now. You reserve the right at any point to completely contradict yourself, regardless what you said.
Just say something different. Yeah.
At any stage. So that all goes well. Paddy, again, it's not a debate, is it, in terms of your centre forward? Kyogo all day long. I think it's 7 and 12 against Rangers.
Yeah.
A couple of crackers this season, which Celtic have found their feet now. We're in very good form, but Kyogo's really, particularly that one at Ibrox, he's really stepped up when needed at a time when we weren't at our free-flowing best. And it's down to Kyogo as much as anybody that we find ourselves in the position that we do now.
He's massive for us. And I think, Connor Goldson will be sitting in the stands like he was at the weekend there. A happy man that he's not coming up against him. And I think if it was Balogun, or a lot of chat now that Davies is the main man to come back into it, Side subject, I've seen what he's on a year is crazy money, what he's making with him. Kyogo wants any of them. He'll take any of them on. Suter, we know there's mistakes in him. Davies just doesn't look anywhere near the pace. And Balogun, probably the best out of the three, has definitely got mistakes in himself as well. So Kyogo, definitely to ruffle a few feathers in the first 70, 80 minutes and then get the big man on just to see it out, I think, has got to be the plan for me. I just think, as I said, on Saturday, he looked so up for it. Probably, for me, his best game of the season. I thought he was outstanding.
It really was. Paddy, you've mentioned the potential of Adam Idah having an impact off the bench, and he's certainly done that at Ibrox not so long ago in the 3-3 game. Out with Adam Idah, is there anyone else you feel that could come on and make a difference should it be required throughout the game?
Yeah, I do think we'll see Awata. I do think we'll see Bernardo. I still think that McGregor and Tatati are still not at that fully fit stage. And I tell you what, like your man was talking about potentially bringing Bernardo in from the start. I get where he's coming from. I do. Hatate's are probably our best midfielder though, so he has to start. But Bernardo, for me, really held his own at the home game at the end of the year there. So, and I think for me, Paulo Bernardo is a player that I would love to see in a Celtic jersey next season as well. He does give us a bit of calm, and he does have that killer pass on him as well. Is he doing it for 90 minutes on Saturday? No, I don't think so, because he's not been playing enough. But definitely will come on and have an impact, I'm sure. And then, we'll say with the wingers, I do think we'll see Kuhn and Palma as well.
I think we will. James, what about the tempo and how Celtic start this game? All three of us here were at the Hearts game on Saturday, and the crowd had whipped things up into a bit of a frenzy pre-match. Ramp that up by 10 on Saturday coming. It's going to be electric. There's going to be real feverish atmosphere. I was going to ask, do Celtic come out at a pace? I don't think human nature dictates that you can't not come out at pace with that behind you. And I think that's what could be, amongst many other factors in the day, that could be hugely in Celtic's favour to get off to a strong start.
I mean, they absolutely will come out at a pace, but it's going to be controlled. Rodgers will have them drilled to get moving, get into your passing sequences, get up the park as quick as you can. But no, you've also got a job to do going back if you lose possession and press and all these things. So I don't see us under Rodgers as a kind of gung-ho team. We're very, very aggressive in our attack, but we're controlled in terms of knowing where we need to be if the ball's turned over and things like that. But to your point, the job the fans have got to do that we will do without being asked. If Saturday is anything to go by, Saturday coming is going to be absolutely just ear-shattering in terms of the noise. It was a brilliant atmosphere going up to the game on Saturday. The walk alone before the game was fantastic, and then the cheers when that ends. So I'd like to say, multiply that by 10, 20, 100, whatever you like, and the players will just feed on that 100%.
Paddy, how big a role do the fans have to play on Saturday?
Huge. I think I totally agree with James. I think the players really felt it on Saturday. They were just up for every tackle, every 50-50. They were getting cheered on. It was support on Saturday. The moaning and the groaning, which we've heard at certain points of the season, and rightly so at points, of course, that goes away now. It's all about us going and trying to win this league, and we've got a huge part. And I think that adrenaline really kicks in when your fans, 60,000 supporters, are pushing you to go and try and get the win. So can't wait. Cannot wait. I think it will be one I'll remember for a long time, hopefully, and hopefully the score dictates that.
Hope so, Paddy. There has been an accusation during the week from some in certain quarters that Celtic fans are getting carried away, ahead of themselves, overconfident, all these things. And that's always a risk. It's a fixture that does carry an air of unpredictability. But in terms of the facts, James, head-to-head, and the form guide tells you Celtic got into this in a very good place. I'm just going to dig out some stuff here. Just in terms of the last 6 league games alone, Celtic have won 5 and drawn one of those games, the draw being the 3-3 at Ibrox. Scoring-wise, we've scored 17, conceded 5, so an average goal tally of +12. Rangers, in contrast, they've won 3, drawn 2, and lost 1, and they've scored 14 and conceded 9, so they've got +5 in the goals tally. That is important. There's, Brendan Rodgers has spoken about peaking at the right time, and that's effectively what we called the weekly show this week. Celtic's best players and the manager are peaking at the optimal time in the season. Rangers, as I say, by contrast, they've lost to Ross County, they've drawn at Dundee, and obviously they dropped points at home against us. That plays its part, doesn't it?
Hugely, and part of that is we're at the strongest we've been all season, and it's such a bizarre season that you're getting your strongest team only kind of mid to late April, heading into May, whereas they've gone the other way and they've had strength. They've had their injuries as well, like us, but they've had full squads at earlier parts of the season. And now I would say Seamer's probably their best player, the guy on loan. He's out. Matondo, who scored a great goal there in the 3-3, he's out. So you've got to factor that into it as well, So not only the off form, the guys who were playing with them when they were off form, the better players, they're out as well. And it could get worse. Add to that, you might be coming on to, but the off the pitch stuff that's coming out and managers taking bait in such a childish fashion versus a settled camp at Celtic, So I think Celtic fans are confident without being complacent. And to quote our last manager, don't interrupt that. Do enjoy it. We're playing well. We're heading on. Enjoy that. Of course, there's nothing done yet. There's no trophy in our hands, so it can only be confidence, but not complacency, to get the job done on Saturday and then see where we go in the Scottish Cup.
You'd mentioned Sima and Matondo. I think the suggestion is it remains to be seen if they'll feature. They're certainly not fully fit, but they might be a part of the squad, and we'll see where it goes. But again, it just tells you the difference there, Paddy. I think Rangers fans online have been debating who starts at centre half, what we're doing at left back, who we're going to play at number 10. There's lots of debate. I think we've roundly agreed there on 11 players that will start for Celtic. You could potentially have a debate over James Forrest v Kuhn, but that aside, Celtic are very settled. And if you lads or anyone listening caught the Brendan Rodgers piece on Wednesday, he basically said we're as strong as we've been at any point since his return. That bodes very well going into things, and it's a shame it's taken till match day 36 to get that fully fit squad. But you'll take it now, Paddy, because these are the times when leagues are won and lost, and we're in a real strong position in terms of the availability.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, make no mistakes about it, we had a very difficult first few months considering the injuries. And we still kind of managed to gather a bit of momentum and take a good lead at the top. Poorly thrown away. Well, we're still waiting on players coming back, and I think it's maybe been from January that we've really, really started to settle down a little bit. I do think the arrival of Kuhn and Ida have been massive for us in terms of that, and the return of Dyson Maeda. And then you look at again, when we seem to be getting back to it, we lose McGregor, and then when we seem to be getting back to it again, we lose Maeda. There has been hurdles at every point this season. What they are suffering from at the moment is effectively what we had at the beginning of the season, where we're struggling to put out a full squad, and we have felt that. I think both teams have felt it. But even when they've been at full strength under this manager, he likes to change it up. He's been changing it up, and I don't think it's rotation. I think it's trying to find the best system and the best players, because they're not that good a team. We know that. But they can dig things out. They can dig results out. We've seen it in some of the games in Europe that they've had. They don't want to play football. They want to keep it compact, and they want to counter-attack. I just think it'll be too much for them. I really do.
They've also got this huge dilemma, James, on how do they approach the game. It's a must-win for them. Their failings at Ross County and Dundee have changed the picture completely. A game that they could potentially, before those fixtures, have turned up and drawn, and without any pressure. They now need to come and win, and that itself, I think, could play hugely in our favour. Just in terms of the head-to-head record, I've mentioned it on the weekly show, but it's worth repeating. Over the last 13 games, I made a slight mistake. Rangers have won twice in the 13 games that we've played them most recently. One being the dead rubber at the end of last season, so you can discount that immediately. The other being the Scottish Cup semi-final in 2020. We might call it the Bobby Madden semi-final, where Rangers were allowed to kick everything out.
Farewell.
Got the draw and managed to get the win over extra time. But that aside, of those 13 games in total, Celtic have won 8, and I think drawn 3 of them. We're very much in the driving seat. And I need to reiterate what I said on Monday about the fact that, by and large, there's been some changes in personnel at different times. But the 11 that we predict for Celtic, for example, these are guys that have been here, done that, and then some against Rangers. And amongst those results, there's some 4-0s and 3-0s and some real tankings as well, James. And I think you cannot discount the importance of that experience.
No, it's huge. That's always been the accusation levelled at Rangers over the last number of years, is that when it really mattered, when it was crucial, they failed. Pressure. Their captain talks about not being able to handle the pressure. Sterling, the squad's in a bad shape and all things like this. It's mad that kind of chat even gets out of the dressing room. I don't mind dressing rooms being honest within themselves and saying what we're going to do about it, but that stays in the dressing room. But again, you look at our dressing room, you get Joe Hart, 70 odd caps for England, is that right? Callum McGregor, Greg Taylor, bit of a veteran of these games now. All over that pitch there's talent. Matt O'Riley, Rio Hatate, Jamesy, how many games has he played like this? How many titles he won? How many trophies has he won? Being over a lot of distance, Jamesy. So yeah, it's definitely going to hold us in good stead, no doubt.
I realise we're going to take a glance at Rangers just shortly, and don't worry, we're not going to spend too much time on them. Before I forget, we're not generally a shout-out kind of show, but I do want to give a shout-out to Paul Allen. He's a great supporter of the show. He's missing the game. He's travelling out on Saturday. I think his flight's at 12:40. He's going away for a few days in Mallorca with his son Lewis, and they come back on Wednesday, bang in the middle of the Killa game. The worst possible timing, but I believe Lewis is going to Australia for 6 months or so. It's a pre-planned holiday. So good luck to the boys, and hopefully they've got 2 really positive results to look forward to. And thanks again to Paul for his support. Paddy, what about Rangers? We've discussed them at different times this week, you and I, on the show and off the show. And I don't know, is it too dramatic to say they're in disarray? You've seen videos all week of Jack Butland and Barisic Square going fans in the car park. Or maybe not quite as extreme as that, but stuff to that effect. You've had the reaction from the Rangers fans to Fabio Silva and the way he celebrated his goal. You'd think he'd scored a Champions League winner. He scored an equaliser against Killa at home. There's a real disconnect there. The manager's havering, and we'll get to him just soon. But there's a general air of negativity. And a final point, James highlighted this. You've got a couple of guys who will certainly play a part in John Lundstram and Borna Barisic, who find themselves out of contract. How willing are these guys to go the extra mile, to potentially go and get injured, to go and smash into tackles 100% when they know really that they're playing for a new contract, potentially elsewhere?
Listen, I think for all that we can go on about it, and it is good for the psyche for us to be a bit like, yeah, that there looks to be issues. Of course there does. We've seen this before. It's at the repeat stage on the manager cycle, on the fact that they've realised, hang on a minute, it's the players, it's not the manager as well. That they generally are now seeing that Tavernier, Goldson, Barisic, Lundstram, guys that have been about for a long time, they're not good enough. What they have done is have a successful run, but the football hasn't been pretty. There's still been doubt within what they're doing. The stuff that we seen with the fans the other day, that's not even coming out of frustration for their fans about performances or anything. That's for someone not signing a jersey. I don't think there is a real proper connect at the moment between fans and the players. The Fabio Silva, he's an entity to his own. I have no idea what that celebration's all about. But I'm sure we're going to go on. The fact that Cantwell's put out a cryptic message as well, apparently talking about you can't fly in a bird can't fly in a cage. So I mean, what the hell that means? Like, they don't know how to keep their mouth shut, and that's the thing. That they're always involved in something. Their fans are always setting high levels. We've spoke about the arrogance on Monday that a lot of our players have. Our fans have that too. Their fans have always had that. What we just need to be on the front of this is still respect the fact that they could come and really, really shut up shop against us, and it could be one of those stuffy performances which we've seen a lot of at Celtic Park this season. But I think that's out their hands. I think they need to come and win this game. I really, really do. So what does he do? He's toyed about with his team for quite a lot this season. Does he have the know-how to come and beat Celtic at Celtic Park? I don't think he does.
Paddy, when the seagulls follow the trailer and the caravan keeps rolling and the dogs keep barking, or words to that effect, that's kind of the stuff you've got going on over there. James, what do you make of the noise? I said it before, you'll get the cliche around this fixture about the form guide goes out the window, and sometimes the team that are on the down can spring a surprise result. But what do you feel about what seems to be unrest across the water?
It's quite an array of unrest, which is hard to harness. See, if it was just Clement trying to create a siege mentality, biting back at Rodgers' absolutely innocuous comments, then you can maybe harness that and say, right, siege mentality, they're all up against us, they think they've got it won, we're going to show them. But it's that, and it's Barisic and Butland fighting with fans, which is not good for their heads. Barisic already on the way out, Cantwell coming out with nonsense. How do you turn that into motivation? I really don't know. I mean, through the week I've been thinking, well, they've got to come out, haven't they? It's their only hope. They can't, invite us on them. But the more I think about it, I think their only chance of winning this game is to kill it stone dead as a game of football, to stop any football getting played. Almost a kind of Craig Levein 4-6-0, just suffocate everything, and then just hope against hope that our talent that's going to be invited upon them doesn't get a goal in, which I think we will. But you see how they play in Europe. That's the kind of style they play in Europe, is just, kill the game of football, have nothing entertaining on show, and then in the last kind of 15 try and push and kind of almost Livingston style tactics. As a football fan, you can maybe forgive your side for dropping any pretence to football as you're going for a trophy towards the end of the season, but it's kind of all they've got when they're up against a better team, and they're up against a better team on Saturday. So I think mostly what they'll be doing is suffocation, trying to just get out, launch long balls up to Dessers, he'll have his back to goal, second balls, hopefully get fouls in and around the box, if not in the box, and go for set pieces. That's their only hope of getting the ball moving and getting a goal. We're the only team that's going to be playing football on Saturday.
But the thing is, this is what I'm saying, though, James, is that I felt at points at Ibrox they were trying to suffocate the game as well, and we were too good for them. That's where, we've spoke about obviously this team needing quality. I think we're meaning that more on the basis of European football. When it comes to this fixture, if we get it right at the back, and we have had those issues at the back, and again, I'll go on about the left-hand side. The big one for me is the fact that our front six is better than their back seven, back eight, 100%. And I think that'll be too much for them. And yeah, bring Johnson and Taylor into that fold as well. I just think we will be too much for them to handle.
I seen a comment I can't ignore. There's a fella, Pat, who comments frequently, and it gets more bizarre by the show. Pat says he predicts Celtic 2, Rangers 3, and that the Teddies will be dancing within George Square on Saturday afternoon. I just don't get that. I think from memory, Pat is an anti-Brendan Rodgers kind of guy. That kind of nonsense also tells me he's an anti-Celtic kind of guy. You cannot be a Celtic fan and come out with that, Pat. I do not know where you're coming from, but the mad comments continue to come thick and fast, but really puzzling beyond belief. James, we've spoken about the head-to-head in terms of the teams, where they're at on the park. Very important that we cover the managers and where they're at off the park and behind the scenes. Brendan Rodgers, a guy at this moment in time, very relaxed, very confident, and very sure of where his team are at. You've then got Philippe Clement, who seems to be the opposite. His comments, not too dissimilar to Pat's, getting more bizarre by the passing week. What's your take on the managers head-to-head?
I think it's night and day. It was always my thing with Ange against Beale or Rodgers against Beale. The big thing getting into a derby like this is who's the better manager. Rodgers is night and day in terms of management ability to this guy. He's been shown frailty since the first derby. You know, his first derby, coming out with just bizarre comments and complaints to the media post-match, which has just really been ramped up in the last couple of weeks. And Sunday was saying we should have had a penalty before our penalty, which complete non-penalty stuff. You know, again, just is he trying to kind of create an us and them kind of thing? He seems all over the place. If it's an act to get a season title together, he's the best actor I've ever seen. I hope he stays there a long, long time. We could only be better if they brought Gerrard back for another go at it. But I hope he's there for a long, long time. Rodgers just seems so composed with everything. He's been working so hard this season to get the team licked into the shape that he wants, and it's there now. And we can talk about the summer another day and what we can do in the summer in terms of improving that further. But he's got the team ticking exactly as he wants it. He's got them calm. He's got them collected. I just think there's no comparison between these two managers.
Paddy, what's your take on the managers? I listened to a really interesting thing earlier on, a podcast between Graham Spears and Henry Winter, the pretty well-renowned sports journalist, done a lot of work down south. He finds himself up here this weekend. He's covering the game for the Herald, a bit of freelance stuff. Really knowledgeable, experienced guy, very talented writer. And he spent a lot of time with Brendan Rodgers over the years. First got to know him when he was a Watford manager. Since then, he's been Swansea and Liverpool and various things. And he highlighted the fact that Rodgers took the Liverpool job at 39 years of age. That is young to be taking such a role. And ultimately, it didn't work out. He fell a bit short. Steven Gerrard played a part in that, of course. But he's been a talented guy from such a young age. He now finds himself, 11, maybe even 12 years down the road from that. But that's a lot of experience. I think Brendan Rodgers is 50, 51. That's a lot of experience as a coach. And I think, Paddy, what we're seeing just now is every sign of that experience in terms of how he's approaching it versus how Clement is.
Yeah, I think it's just, obviously there's the knowledge of this. There's the knowledge of this fixture as well. And I think we go back to the game in December when he was saying about, there's been 5 managers and every time I've been told they're coming. He's clever on it in the sense of, he likes the papers to get their headline. He's very, very clever in what he says because it's not been too disrespectful to the point where there's an outcry, even though there seems to be people that will maybe just read too far into it. We can say what we want about the comment the other day about let's have some fun. I think for me that we've said it takes the weight off the players' shoulders. And their manager thinks he's having a pop at him. There's one guy that's just cutting a cool, calm and collected figure here, and it's him. And I think that will show. Clement is new to this. The pressure is definitely there after those 2 games, the Dundee and the Ross County game. Ever since then, I think it's been a bit. I don't know. It's just been a bit like all over the place in terms of his press conferences. I do feel that he's really starting to feel the pressure. Take nothing away from the fact that, as I've said before, you can get your team up no matter where you're at in the league, no matter where you are, and your mental side. A manager should be able to get their players up for this game on Saturday. So I take nothing away from it. But give yourself the best chance. Be clever enough to take a step back and realise this is not helping my players at all. Rodgers, on the other hand, as I said, comments that are going to take the pressure off the shoulders, pressure off himself as well. And as I said, he's got 2 players in Maeda and James Forrest who they are going to have some fun on Saturday. I think the pressure is off them. And yeah, there's that confidence from us. And that all comes from one guy. So he should be really, really chuffed with himself this season. But yeah, still a long way to go. But I think he's done really well to turn things around and get the guys playing football for him.
100%, Paddy. James, you might have seen, I think it was today, if not yesterday, that Philippe Clement is in the shortlist for the Scottish Football Writers' Manager of the Year. I'm finding it hard to get my head around that because if things go as we hope they do, he could end up with just a League Cup in his locker. Do you get to be Manager of the Year for winning the League Cup for Rangers? What's that all about?
Football writers, eh?
Mm-hmm.
That's your answer.
There's your answer. He's up against Derek McInnes, who looks like he'll finish 4th for Kelly. Then you've got Tony Dock, who will probably finish 6th for Dundee. And then you've got John McGlynn, who's won the 3rd tier of Scottish football for Falkirk, albeit he's come through an unbeaten season. But by all accounts, Falkirk find themselves the richest team in the 3rd tier, and they should be winning that league as a canter. It just seems a strange shortlist, Paddy, don't you think?
I'm not surprised by things like that anymore, to be honest, Tino. And yeah, I don't think any Celtic or Rangers managers deserve to be on the list this year. I think, as we've said, the performances haven't been great. Mitigating circumstances, yes, absolutely. But Rodgers will know himself. He'll want to just get this season over and done with and just get planning for next year. Yeah, listen, nice little confidence boost for Saturday for Mr. Phil.
I think so. I'm going to do everybody a favour. I'm going to block Pat because he's killing my buzz. He says Kelly will beat us during the week, that Clemont's a better.
Why be a Celtic fan if you're going to be that? It's just bizarre.
I don't think he's a Celtic fan, lad. See you later, clown.
See you, Pat. So he's off-ski. I think I'm doing a few folk a favour there. Mad stuff. But I suppose that's the way it works, James. We're in this world where everyone's entitled to opinion. And once again, thanks to everyone that does comment, because we got a whole variety of opinions, and by and large, they're always good, they're always entertaining, and they're always with Celtic in mind. But some things seem to have drifted a wee bit there. James, let's get to the scoreline predictions. This is your favourite part of the show, and this is where you tend to get a wee bit excited. I'd mentioned before, very genuinely, that Celtic are in a good place. There's a confidence around Celtic, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being confident in the abilities of the players you see in front of you and the manager that you've got in charge of the group. But you can. There's a fine line between that and stepping into cockiness and arrogance. Don't think it's something that we generally do. It's not our style as a show, and I don't think generally it's where Celtic fans are at. But I think you'd expressed earlier on you've got reasons for optimism, and you think it could be a pretty enjoyable scoreline. What are you going with?
I mean, I would inject just a wee bit of mythness to the conversation, because the three of us have been all, full of confidence. Myth would have given that balance of just nerves and caution.
Pat Santers, I've worked it out, Paddy. Myth is Pat Santers in the comments.
Maybe. Look, it's a winner takes all derby, and they are the second team to us in the league, so they cannot be discounted. They won't be discounted by Rodgers or the players. There's a challenge, and it's got to be met and it's got to be overcome. I just think we've got the personnel and the ability to do that. I think we'll come out fast. I think we'll get them on the back foot early doors. I think about another 3-0 half-time shot. They'll get one back. We'll score another one. We'll finish 4-1.
4-1. You're in total agreement with Mazar. Mazar, good friend of the show, he's predicted the same scoreline. 4-1 Celtic, Kyogo hat-trick, and Kalmax due a goal in this fixture. What about yourself, Paddy? Do you think it'll be quite as comfy as that? Are you somewhere along those lines?
I don't think the game will be entirely comfortable. I think that we will need to be at our best. I think we really need to go for it and make sure that we're just up from it from the very beginning. Having said that, as I said, I was very, very happy with the performance, but I still think we will concede chances. I've just got a good feeling. I'm thinking 3. I'm thinking 3-0 Celtic on Saturday, and just really excited to see how where they go from last week, where they take that performance, and just put it to them, guys. We go and win this game. We're going to win the league. Yeah.
Do you know, my scoreline prediction has been changing as the week's gone on. James, I wanted to go for a 5. I wanted to say 5, then I didn't want to be that guy. Didn't want to tempt fate. I'm going to go for the comfiest 2-0 ever. I'm going to go for a real strong 2-0. I do think Celtic will come out the traps, and you wouldn't be overly surprised if we roared into a real solid half-time lead. But these games can end up cagey. There's different things at play. You said, James, you used the term it's winner takes all. It's not quite. It's winner takes all for Celtic. It's it's a different story from them. It maybe drags them back into the title race, but
I think it's winner takes all.
Well, if they win, they're not taking all, are they?
Stephen Naismith will sort that out, don't worry.
No, you're going down the Pat Santers road as well, so we're not going to entertain that. But I do feel that Celtic certainly have got it in their locker. I said this, I think it was last week, Paddy. We were talking about Hearts and the threat that Hearts hold, and you can't discount that from the third force in the country. But I said the very best version of Hearts get beaten by the very best version of Celtic all day long. The same applies this week. I think to an extent you've got to credit Philippe Clement for getting more, out of the sum of the parts than the previous manager was able to do so. But I think that gassed out pretty early. There's a bit of new manager bounce for a time, and they had that run of fixtures. But I think there's only so much you can do when you've got guys like Lundstrom, Fabio Silva, Dessers, questionable centre halves. He doesn't have a good group of players to work with, and I think Celtic have got real talent across the board. So I'll either be 2-0 or 5-0. That's what I'm saying, but I'll stick with my 2. I'm wary of going in too deep on it, but we'll see where it goes. So 2-0 for me, 3-0 for Paddy, 4-1 for James. Solid results all round. Paddy, we're getting to the end of the piece. It's been a pretty enjoyable 3/4 of an hour. What's your final comments ahead of the 12:30 kickoff on Saturday?
Yeah, just buzzing for it now. Really looking forward to the game, and I think, as I said, all the talking has been relatively quiet this week. I think we'll maybe see it ramp up a little bit tomorrow after the pressers. But yeah, I just think there's a good feel about things. James spoke about it. The walk up to the stadium on Saturday, there was a feeling like electricity going around the place. Honestly, everyone was just buzzing and looking forward to a good game of football. The team provided that and then some. They really reacted to the fans, and I just think the full occasion on Saturday will be huge. And I just think it will be too much for the opposition.
Yeah, Paddy, I forgot to mention, we've got press access after the game on Saturday, and you're going to head along there for us for the Celtic Exchange, and that could be, listen, it's always going to be interesting after a game like that, but that could be a really enjoyable occasion. Most likely you'll speak to the manager certainly and one of the players, and that could be really interesting after such a fixture.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm obviously very, very privileged to be able to go in and do that and be able to kind of get the reaction. And I'm hoping, obviously, it's a good result, of course. But yeah, it'll be great just to get firsthand how the guys are feeling straight after the game as well, and just being a part of that is very, very, very special. What could be a title-defining game, and I think it'll be interesting to see the reaction from the other side as well, and just kind of get their thoughts on things too. But yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, hopefully Brendan Rodgers has got a huge smile on his face by the time he gets to speak to you, Paddy. James, your own final comments?
It's just been a roller coaster of a season, innit? And this could and maybe should be the end of it, with us winning out and finishing the league. Don't want to give them any ideas, but the Celtic board's weird signing policy have created this closeness, and it's made it very exciting. But a lot of guys are saying, don't give me that exciting stuff. Give me done by October and enjoy the rest of the season. So maybe we'll try for that next season. But yeah, roller coaster of a season. All ends on Saturday with a big Celtic win.
Brilliant. Can't ask for any more than that. Thanks to you both for joining us here on a Thursday night. Thanks as always to everyone that joins us in the comments. Makes a big difference to what we're doing. It really helps with the format of the show when we do these live pre and post matches. So thanks again. And thanks, of course, to everyone who continues to listen to the Celtic Exchange podcast. We'll be back on Sunday. We've done this the last few games. We'll be back on Sunday at 12 o'clock. So the dust will have settled, hopefully, on that massive win that James has predicted. So we'll see you all back here at 12 o'clock for that. In the meantime, have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll be celebrating a massive Celtic win on Saturday.